As a project manager, when you are preparing for PMP exam, many times you hear a word Monte Carlo simulation, and you may wonder how this thing is really used. For the PMP exam perspective, you don't have to understand it in detail. Just understanding it's a technique which use some statistical method to predict various outcome using some statistical data is good enough. Yeah, that much understanding is good enough for your PMP exam, and you use it for quantitative risk assessment, and you can use it for simulating the schedule and cost forecast. Yeah, so that much is good enough. But if you want to really see it, how this really work. So in this video, I'm showing you a small example and doing Monte Carlo analysis for your project schedule using optimistic, pessimistic, and most likely duration and applying PERT distribution. Let's see this data first before we get into simulation. So here I have a small data set where you can see that I have activities which I mentioned here. So these are like activity ID I have given, optimistic duration, most likely duration, and pessimistic estimate. I'm putting these three estimates. I'm also defining the dependency, saying that activity 2 is dependent on 1, activity 3 is also dependent on 1. So activity 2 and 3 are happening in parallel. Other things are sequential, the way you can see it here, because after that 4 will happen after 2 and 3 gets done, and then 5 will happen after the 4 gets done. So if I see a critical path, the optimistic critical path, then I understand 2, which is the first duration of activity 1. Then out of activity 2 and 3, I need to take the maximum 1, 4, and then these are the 2 which are happening in a sequence. So I can understand the most optimistic critical path in this particular data set is 12. Now, how this whole thing will come up when I do a Monte Carlo simulation. So I go to ChatGPT and I upload this file from my machine, and I give a instruction: perform Monte Carlo analysis for this data. So this is how the ChatGPT is answering. So using PERT beta distribution it is using. We can also go for triangular distribution. It will determine the project duration for each iteration by considering dependency, and it will perform 10,000 simulations. So looking at my optimistic, pessimistic, and most likely range, and by applying PERT, where the more scenarios will come near the most likely, because we understand the 4 times there is a high probability of most likely thing. So that's the distribution it is using, and that's how it is showing us the Monte Carlo graph. So this is the output of it. Now, how do we see this data? This is your project duration, like 16, 17, 18, and then it is going till 24 days. This is something we are going. And here we are talking about the data set. Out of the 10,000 records which got created, this is how the data set got fit into these particular duration. So we can say that around 19 to 21, the maximum data set is there. So if I can visually see that this particular project is more like content is coming between 19 and 21. If someone asks me what is the possible end date of this particular project schedule, I will say 19 to 20. I can also see a cumulative line to show me the distribution. So I can say, can you plot a cumulative line to show the cumulative probability. Yeah, so that's something we can also probably ask this tool to do it. So here it is cumulative probability is getting made. So now it is incrementally showing us. And in this way of presentation, if I say that in a 24 days, the all data set is coming in. Here I can say that, okay, if I do a 22 days, so 22 days is something that there is a some less than say around 90% probability. 0.9 is the cumulative probability of getting this thing done within that particular time. So within 21 days, that much is the data set showing in. So this way we can perform this Monte Carlo simulation. If you play with the probability and the optimistic and pessimistic numbers, this whole things can also change. So it is saying, x-axis represents the project duration in days, y-axis present the cumulative probability. You can estimate probability by completing the project by certain time by looking at the corresponding cumulative probability. So we know that if someone asks me, uh, uh, like what is the probability of this project finishing in 20 days? So I will put at 20, I go here, I say less than 20 days. Yeah, so less than 20 days, 60% chances of this project finishing in less than 20 days. Yeah, that way. Say less than 19 days, oh, it's like around 20% chances of this project finishing, or if 19 is here, around 20-25% chances this project finishing in less than 19 days. So this is how we can use this particular tool of Monte Carlo simulation. As I said before, don't worry about it for exam objective, but yes, this is something, a good thing, and with the help of ChatGPT it's very easy to perform these kind of simulations now. So check it out. If you want to prepare for PMP more, connect with us. We do run various PMP classes.